morning. Thinking, what's going on up here? There are things hidden by a mysterious tea towel. You'll find out, don't worry. So we've been working our way through the One series. And so far, we've done the blessing of one lost sheep, one heart, one mind, one purpose. And this morning's message will involve a camel and a compass. It's getting even more mysterious. And this morning, our title is One Way. Okay, so we're going to just throw up the verse here. And we're taking our passage today from John chapter 14, and this is verse 6, where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. We'll be focusing more on how Jesus says, I am the way, but we'll also touch a little bit on the truth and the life. Before we go any further, I've just got to draw out two little words that Jesus says here, which it just blows my mind. And I just think it's really important to understand the significance. And it's where Jesus says, I am. Now, this statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life, is one of the 7 I am sayings of Jesus in John's gospel. We find him elsewhere saying things like, I am the bread of life, I am the light of the world, and other things. It's a really good study. But it's a really interesting thing because John's gospel focuses a lot on the divinity of Jesus. We see him as a very holy Jesus, a very divine Jesus in John's gospel. In other gospels, we see a lot of the humanity of Jesus. But John's gospel kicks off with, the Word was with God and the Word was God. And it's very much about the divinity of Jesus, which is a bit of a clue. So where else do we find someone in the Bible referring to themselves as, I am? It's not a trick question. Exodus? Yeah, someone said Exodus. So who says it in Exodus? God himself says it. So Moses is there in Exodus. He's got his sandals off. He's not sunbathing, but he's having a holy moment with God. And there's a burning bush and it's not being consumed by fire. And he's having a conversation with God. And God is saying to him, I want you to go to the Israelites and tell them, I'm going to set them free. And Moses says to him, who do I say sends me? Who should I say sends me? And this is what God says to him, I am who I am. Say, I am has sent you. It's not a riddle. I am who I am. Say, I am has sent you. So straight away in this moment where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he is saying, I am God. It's a divine revelation. It's Jesus saying, I am the Messiah. I am God incarnate. I have come as a man to this earth on a mission of salvation. I am God. I just think that is amazing. And we know how profound and how controversial that was, because in the Jewish culture, we see it's a bit of an issue, because elsewhere in John's gospel, again, Jesus refers to himself as I am, and they pick up stones. Are they building something? What are they about to do to Jesus? They're going to kill him. They're going to stone him. Because according to Mosaic law, to say that you're God, if that's not true, that's blasphemy. So they pick up stones ready to kill Jesus because he says he's the I am. And I love this as well. We see the divinity part here again of Jesus, where it says that Jesus hid himself and withdrew from the temple. And it's almost like this kind of Jesus of John's gospel superhero moment. He kind of just disappears. I don't quite know how that happens, but he does. But we just see this amazing moment right from the offset in this statement that Jesus says, I am God. I am divine. I am the way. I am the truth, and I am the life. So we find out that Jesus is the one and only way to the Father. And we're going to unpack just a few thoughts about how Jesus is the one way. But before we go any further, I'm going to take you over to my tea towel and what's hidden underneath it. Now, for those of you that don't know, I was born in Devon. I know. Yes, there's a few claps in the room. Yes, Devon. Southwest Devon. I was born in Plymouth, interestingly, in the same hospital that Cara was. It's a very small world. And one thing about Devon that I do love, and that is a very traditional thing that you would associate with Devon, are cream teas. And hopefully you've all maybe had one or know about cream teas, and it usually consists of a pot of tea and a scone or scone, controversial again, with some of the people going, scone, scone, with jam and clotted cream. Now listen, there's a bit, the Isle of Man, what's going on? Any scone I've had over here, okay, it's not clotted cream that they give you. It's like some kind of whipped cream or whipped double cream. It's just not right. Someone needs to let the guys here on the other man know that it's not right. So this is a traditional thing in Devon. And actually, my Saturday job was working in a tea room. And, you know, just as an aside, my wages for those few hours, plus my tips, would pay for my driving lesson every week. It was that long ago. But it was great. I have fond memories of scrubbing dishes and making sandwiches. It's great. So I am going to ask for 2 volunteers. I've already asked Ruth, the lovely Ruth Baker, if you could please come out. Now, I would like a northerner. So Ruth, I happen to know, has a connection to Devon as well. But I would like someone else from maybe the northwest, could be from the Isle of Man, or the northeast, or further north than that. Would anyone like to come out and help me? It's a nice thing. It is a nice thing, and you get to eat it afterwards as well. Yes! Come on. Right, take your station. This feels a little bit like the Generation game. And it's actually quite funny, because when I was thinking that, I was like, most people that wouldn't know what that was because they're so young aren't here, because they're either out for Impact or they're in South Africa. Right, so, ready? Here we have some scones, and we have some clotted cream and some jam. Your challenge, ladies, is to assemble a scone/scone however you think it should be done. Right, so I'm going to bring over, you've got exactly the same thing, the same amount of jam and cream. There's a little knife there, little spoons for you. Okay, let's pop that there. You can use that as an extra symbol then. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to give you 1 each. Sorry they're not home baked, you know. Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you a minute. So would you like to come over here? And there you go. Right, just wait for the clock, ladies. Okay, are you ready? Let's put a minute on the clock. Okay, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, and assemble. Very concentrated. Okay, we are currently both cutting the scone open. Okay.
Wrong way, Mum.
Shh. We could have done with some like little bit of music in the background, couldn't we? Bit of lift music. Dun, 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 dun. That's nice, thank you. Dun, dun, dun. Ooh.
I'm allowed to lick the spoon?
You can lick the spoon. You have 20 seconds to go. 20 seconds to go. Ruth's clearly there. She's well versed in this. Keep going. Intriguing. It's okay. It all goes down the same way. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Well done. Completed in a minute. So let's see what we have here. So could you explain your assembly to us?
Okay, cut it in half.
Yep.
1 side jam, 1 side cream. Sandwich it together.
So it's a scone sandwich. And is this your preferred way of eating them?
No.
Okay. What inspired you today?
Just because I know lots of different ways of eating scones.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's jam on top of the cream.
Ooh, okay. Thank you. And Ruth, we see you have done it this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've got...
Jam first, and then the cream. And I, like Becky,
Yes!
I, like Becky, used to work in a tea shop. Saturday job.
Yes! It's what's made us, Ruth. Now, so this, I have to say, I am so sorry. There is much controversy around this issue, this huge life issue, but this is, I believe, the one and only way to assemble and eat a scone. And would I say the majority agree? Yes. I'm so sorry. Out! Oh. Shh. No, this is anyway. Can we please give my lovely volunteers a round of applause? Thank you. Oh, you can take them with you if you'd like to. Go on, Chris will scoff that. Anyway, there's some spare. Seriously, anyone else? There's a whole thing going here. Go on, Mark. You need your strengths. You've got a baby. Okay. So, as silly and fun as that is, it's just to illustrate the one way, the idea of there being one way. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He is the one and only way to the Father. So we're going to just talk about how actually that way is not necessarily an easy way. And it's actually described by Jesus as the narrow gate. In Matthew 7, verse 13 to 14, we see him say, enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. And those who find it are few. Don't be depressed, guys. Jesus is giving us an honest warning. And I like that. It's honest. It's real. The way of salvation through the narrow gate is not as easy and simple as the broad, free-for-all, wide gate. Entering the narrow gate is going to require faith. It's going to require a laying down of your life. It's going to require trust. It's going to require you saying, not my will, not my way, but yours, Jesus. But Jesus promises that it will lead to life. We see, look, for the gate is narrow and the way is hard. That leads to life. It's the right way and the destination leads to life.
That's right.
I love as well the fact that Jesus calls himself the gate. So not only does he tell us actually it's a narrow gate, but he says, I am the gate. In the English Standard Version, he calls himself the door. But in the NIV, he says, I am the gate in John 10. And he says, whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. So whether it's a door or a gate, it's an entrance point. It's an access point. Jesus is the access point to the Father. He is the entrance point. He is the way to the Father. No one comes to the Father but by me. And I just love that beautiful promise. They will go in and out and find pasture. Do you know what pasture is? It's a place of peace. It's a place of rest. It's a place of finding life because of entering through Jesus. And you know, we can be assured and encouraged that although the way of the narrow gate may be hard, we can remind ourselves of this truth that Isaiah tells us. So in Isaiah 55, verse 8, I do love this verse, probably quote it too much. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways, declares the Lord. God has a higher plan and purpose for us. His perspective is different to ours. It might not be easy, but it's the best and the right way. And just listen to this. Hard and ugly times can result in great beauty. Yes. Hard and ugly times can result in great beauty. Probably most of you know how a pearl is formed, how it's created. And there's the proverbial grain of sand that people usually think it's a grain of sand that gets into the clam or the shell and kind of causes friction, but it's actually usually a parasite. Anyway, it's this parasite that works its way into the oyster, the mussel or clam, and as a defense mechanism, a fluid is used to then coat the irritant. And then layer upon layer of this coating called nacre, not sure how you pronounce it, is deposited until a lustrous pearl is formed. But it's only formed, that beauty is only achieved because of that parasite, because of that irritant, because of that friction. Paul encourages us in Romans 5, verse 3-4, that we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. It's not easy, but it's the right way. It's the best way. And God promises that he'll be with us, and that will be producing character within us. As we deal with that friction, hard and ugly times can result in great beauty. The next thing I just want to draw out about Jesus being the one and only way is the camel that couldn't. Some of you are thinking, camel, hang on, that rings a bell. And yes, that's where we're going, the rich young ruler. You see, Thomas, in verse 5, he's not understanding the concept. Jesus has been talking about he's going ahead, he's going to prepare rooms in his Father's house. There are many rooms, and I'm going to prepare a place for you. And he says to Thomas, you know the way. And actually, Thomas says, no, I don't know the way, because he's thinking Jesus is talking about a physical place. He needs directions. And then Jesus, of course, goes on to say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But Thomas does something that people have done for hundreds and hundreds of years. He's striving for entrance into eternity. He's asking, well, how do I get there? That's where I want to go, but how do I get there? How do I get from where I am now to where I want to be? And people have tried for years and years to work out how to get into eternity, how to get their pass into heaven. Maybe it's by being good. Maybe if I'm really good, that'll get me there. Maybe by doing good, by doing lots and lots of good things, all of which are good and great. Maybe if I'm really spiritually connected in some way to something, some higher power, something, some kind of spirituality. Maybe if I follow every rule in the Bible, that will get me in. Either way, it's a sense of trying to earn our way to get in, to earn our pass into heaven. But the Bible and Jesus makes it very clear that an eternity with God is not something that we can ever earn.
That's right.
And in fact, the only person that earned it for us was Jesus, by being the access point, by being the one who made the way. We see in Ephesians 2, verse 8-9, it's very, very clear. And I love how Paul's just like, you're all the same here, guys. There's no exceptions. It's just across the board. For by grace, you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one can boast. No one can say, yeah, but I did this. But I've done this for my whole life. They didn't do that. But this isn't fair. Actually, it's completely fair, because it's the same rule that applies for everybody. It's by grace. God's righteousness at Christ's expense. It's by grace that we're saved, not by works. We can't earn it. Jesus was the only one that could earn our pass into heaven. And there's this story about the rich young ruler in Matthew. And it's actually quite a sad story, because it doesn't end in a nice, happy way. But let's just read it together, because I think it really illustrates how we can so easily, how the world, and sometimes how we can get caught up in this sense of needing to earn our way into God's kingdom. So in Mark 10, verse 17-25, And as he was setting out on his journey, a man ran up and knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." I love that. It's a little bit of a, "You calling me God then?" You know the commandments. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not defraud. Honor your father and mother. And he said to him, "Teacher, all of these things I've kept from my youth." And Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said to him, "You lack one thing. Go, sell all that you have and give it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come and follow me." Disheartened by the saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. And Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, "How difficult it will be for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of God." And the disciples were amazed at his words. But Jesus said to them again, "Children, how difficult it is to enter the kingdom of God. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God." It's quite a sad story, because this rich young ruler actually goes away, it says, disheartened and filled with sorrow, because he couldn't give up the one thing that he placed the most value in. And that was his earthly possessions, his wealth. He didn't understand that the greatest value and the greatest treasure are in heavenly things, are in kingdom things. He'd kept the commandments. Well done, tick for him. He'd been a good Jewish boy all his life. But Jesus saw the depths of his heart, and he identifies that the stumbling block for him is the value that he places on his wealth. He can't do it. He can't sell all that he has. He just can't give that up. He walks away. You see, he would have been used to earning what he wants through his wealth. He could have bought his way into anything because he had money. But you can't buy your way into heaven. The currency of heaven isn't money. It isn't wealth. It isn't possession. It's love. It's grace. It's mercy. It's sacrifice. All of those things which were met in the one perfect man, Jesus, the one and only way. It couldn't be earned. And he walks away, still lost, still striving. And I really felt as I was preparing that was something that some of you need to hear, that actually some of you are striving. You're trying to do good and do right and be good and almost earn God's love. I just want to remind you that you're a human being, not a human doing.
Right.
Okay? Human being, not a human doing. Some of you are goal setters and you like to achieve and you're driven. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But it can sometimes transfer into our relationship with God, where we somehow feel like, oh, I need to achieve, I need to earn his love, I need to earn my salvation even sometimes without even realizing it, rather than just understanding that it's by grace. Yeah. It's by grace. It's Jesus and his grace and his love. We can't earn God's love. We can't earn our salvation. It's only found through Jesus, the one and only way. It's only found when we recognize we need him. When we recognize that we need to give our lives over to him. Just like that rich young ruler couldn't do it. He couldn't give his thing up, whatever your thing is. It was money and wealth for him, but he couldn't do it. But it's only in Jesus. Because Jesus was a sacrifice once and for all. And there's been this sense of striving for generations and generations. We've seen mankind trying to atone for their sin through sacrifice, through animal sacrifice for years and years, because it needed to be dealt with somehow. Blood needed to be shed to deal with the sin of mankind. So there's this temporary situation set up whereby there's been priests over generations and generations that have tried to atone for the sin of mankind by these ritual sacrifices, very detailed, specific things to appease a holy God, because we have to. but it was only temporary. And actually, Jesus came and became the ultimate and final sacrifice that did away with the need to strive for forgiveness any longer. And in John 1, we see him here being referred to as the Lamb of God. He became the Lamb, the true Lamb, the last and final sacrifice, who shed his own blood for all of us once and for all. The one way to the Father. I love how the writer of the book of Hebrews explains what that sacrifice meant. We see in Hebrews 10, in verse 11 to 14, and every priest stands daily at his service, offering repeatedly the same sacrifices, which can never take away sins. But when Christ had offered for all time a single sacrifice for sins, he sat down at the right hand of God, waiting from that time until his enemies should be made a footstool for his feet. For by a single offering, he has perfected for all time those who are being sanctified. Thank you, Jesus. We can't strive and earn our access to God the Father. Jesus earned that access for us through his death. He is the only way. I find it really interesting that Jesus says to Thomas in John 14 in this passage, he says, "You know the way." Now, Thomas is thinking he's talking about a physical way where he requires directions. He's like, well, give me a map, I'll find my way. But actually, I really feel like there's a sense here of Jesus is saying there's a knowing in you. There's a sense in you that something's not quite right. And I believe that that's actually within each one of us. That's actually within mankind. A sense of something's missing. You might have heard of it referred to as a God-shaped hole. A sense that I'm just not fully satisfied. There's a dissatisfaction, a sense of striving, a sense of there must be more. And I think people try to fill that hole, that missing thing, in many, many ways. For some people, they try and feel accepted and build a community and be popular. Do you remember when, with Facebook, I don't think it's such a big thing now, but it was all about how many friends you could have, how many, like it was like a competition. I've got 5,000 friends, how many do you have? I've probably got about 10, no. But it was just all about how popular you are, how popular you could be. For some people, it would be like, maybe if I have more stuff, maybe if I have better stuff and more stuff, that will make me feel better. That will fill that hole and I'll feel more satisfied. For some people, it would be about spirituality, a sense of connecting to something. So my little boy, Tobias, he's got a thing for windmills. It's very sweet. And he just loves them. Wind turbines, windmills. He has done actually right from the beginning. He's loved like pinwheels. And anyway, it's gone to a whole new level. So we decided that we've just come back from a little week across, and we decided that in our traveling, because we covered some miles, we would actually have little pit stops and see some different windmills. And this was a beautiful one at Chesterton in Warwickshire. And this is from the other side of it, like the behind bit. And we caught it in the golden hour. If anyone does photography, it's the hour before sunset, so when everything glows in this gorgeous golden sunlight. And it was beautiful. And as we walked up this hill to see this windmill, we just kind of fell in step with this guy. And he started sharing all this stuff about how he's into mediums and orbs. He was telling me all about the orbs and how crystals, he does this Reiki healing. And he was clearly so wanting to be connected spiritually to something out there and was seeking. And there were a couple of really sweet moments when I was able to share what I believed. But it was just a really interesting thing because I was like, you know what? Whether it's a horoscope, whether it's a bit of crystal work or whatever it is, everybody's trying to get hold of something. You know, there's this dissatisfaction and a sense of knowing that actually there's something missing. I can remember a time in my life, and what I find really interesting, this was a good few years ago, is I can't remember what it was that made me feel like I felt. I felt very unhappy. Something had obviously happened, and I'd reached a point where I was having a bit of a faith crisis. And I actually decided that I'd probably be better off if I just did my own thing. And I can't even believe, just sharing it with you, I'm like, really, did I do that? But in that moment, I was like, do you know what, this faith thing isn't working, this God relationship thing, I don't think that's working either. I'm going to just go my own way, and I don't want to walk with God anymore. And so I just decided to do that. I almost made a conscious decision to step away from God. What I can remember, although I don't remember why I'd got to that point, what I can remember is the absolute feeling of loneliness, of feeling lost, of feeling so distant from God, of feeling so separate from everything that ever made sense to me, of like the foundation under my feet from being just ripped away. And I can tell you now, I didn't stay there very long. I came running back to God, and God in his grace and mercy received me back with open arms. But it wasn't a place I wanted to stay for long because it didn't make any sense. I knew, like in the depths of my being, that something huge was missing, and it was God. He is the only one that can satisfy. Jesus made a way to the Father through his death because he's the only one that can satisfy and fill that void and meet that dissatisfaction. I just want to touch briefly on the truth because, you know, everybody believes something. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, from this passage, we ultimately know that the truth is that Jesus is the way to the Father. But let's just recognize something else about truth for a moment. I'm going to show you a slide. Can everybody see that? This was a bit of an internet sensation. It was a picture of a dress, and it caused great sort of discussion, and everyone saw something a bit different. By way of interest, this is not a trick question, and you're not going to get it wrong either. Who sees, with a show of hands, who sees white and gold dress? Who sees blue and black? It's so interesting. I cannot see the blue and black. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I can't see it. Ben was like, it's blue and black 100%. But I just don't see it. And you know what? Neither of us is wrong. But what's really interesting, if we go on to the next slide, the original dress was blue with black lace trimming. It was a bodycon dress. Guys will be like, what's that? It's a bodycon dress, just means fitted. And it was done by the retailer Roman Originals, which was actually blue and black in colour. Although it was available in 3 other colours, red, pink and ivory, never white with gold. It's all to do with the lighting and how your brain perceives the light and adjusts to it in that image. It's all very sciencey, there's more to it. But it's to do, there's nothing wrong with your eyesight. It's to do with what your brain does with the lighting in that image. So for me, my truth is that I see it as white and gold. I do. I'm being honest with you. That is what I see. Who saw it as blue? So Mark, you see that as blue? Like you can't unsee that. That is your truth. It's subjective to you, isn't it? And that is so often the case with truth. It's a subjective thing. It's based on our own past experience. It's based on our perspective. It's based on how we interpret a situation. It's a subjective thing. But the absolute truth is that it's blue. That's the absolute truth. A definition of absolute truth, according to Wikipedia, which I think is a good definition, it's something that is true at all times and in all places. It is something that is always true, no matter what the circumstances. It is a fact that cannot be changed. That is the absolute truth of Jesus when he says, I am the truth. It's a non-negotiable, objective truth that says, it's me, I'm the way to the Father. That is your absolute truth. And there's no circumstance that you're in right now that changes that. Doesn't matter where you are, where you've been, doesn't change that. It's still true. It's still absolute. It's not up for debate. That is the truth, that he is the way, the only way to the Father. No one comes to the Father but through me. The resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, you might have heard the phrase, I'm a born-again Christian. You need to be born again. And some of you might be like, what does that even mean? And if you're a bit confused by that phrase, I don't think we use it so much now, actually, probably for that reason. Nicodemus also was very confused in the Bible. He was a Pharisee. And Jesus is trying to explain to him what it means to be born again. And he's just really struggling with this concept. And in John 3, we see him in verse 1-7 grappling with this. And Nicodemus actually says, but how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? Ooh, no. Can he? And Jesus says, truly, truly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I've said to you, you must be born again. Jesus is saying, when we make that choice to follow him and say, yep, Jesus, I believe you're the one way to the Father. It's like we're a baby. Again, a baby being born is brand new, innocent, pure, blank sheet, a whole new thing, a new creation. And that's what Jesus is saying to us, that you get that chance. What a gift. That when we say yes to him, we're born again, new life, brand new life, blank sheet. Isn't that amazing to have your slate wiped clean? We don't deserve that. That's God's grace and mercy. Brand new life. And the other way he describes himself is the resurrection and the life. And I love this. He says in John 11, verse 25, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. You see, resurrection is about being renewed, being restored, something that was once dead, being made alive again. And you know, I think sometimes that can apply to many things. It might not be the first time you've made a commitment to Jesus, to follow him, but it might be that you need to recommit. It might be that you need your passion for Jesus to be reignited and restored and resurrected. It might be that you need your passion for the church, because we should love the church. We should love the bride of Christ. Jesus does. Maybe you're just a bit like, about church at the moment. Maybe you need that to be resurrected and revived and restored. You know, Jesus said he is the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. You see here on the screen a compass. I'm just going to finish with this. So I'm not great at orienteering or anything like that. And, there's some more details to this, but generally speaking, a compass points north. Now, there's a few degrees difference between magnetic north and geographic north. Speak to Dave Baker, he'll be able to explain that. Okay. But the needle inside a compass is a magnet, and it's drawn to the magnetic field that is around the Earth. And that's there because the Earth has an iron core, which is like a giant magnet. So it's drawing this needle to itself. And I felt God gave me a picture of a compass pointing north. And in the direction of north was Jesus. And he was there as the one and only way to go. He is the way, the truth, and the life. The only way we can get to God. And I felt that God was saying a compass is used to navigate. And it might be that some of you right now are navigating through quite easy terrain. It's actually, life's pretty sweet. It's good right now, and you're enjoying the journey. It's all good, and that's okay. Enjoy it. Thank God for it. Thank God for that blessing. But some of you are having a hard time with your journey, and the terrain is rough. And there are obstacles and challenges, stormy seas and mountains. And I felt that God say, no matter where you're at right now, Jesus is still the only way. Remember that absolute truth? Circumstance doesn't change the truth. Where you've been or where you're going doesn't change the truth. It's still absolute. It's still non-negotiable. It's still true. He is the only way. He is the only one who can truly navigate you through life, giving you the wisdom and the grace and the strength you need right now. He is the only one who can navigate you into eternity and an eternity with God. Amen. He is the way, the truth, and the life, and he is your north. And I think there are some very clear people that might feel that God's speaking to them this morning. It might be that you've never chosen Jesus as the way, the access point, the one who gets you to the Father. And for the first time, like Nicodemus, trying to understand being born again, you want to make that commitment this morning to choose Jesus as the only way to the Father. The narrow gate, it might not be an easy option for you. It might mean you have to lay some things down in your life, but it is the absolute best way. And there's a promise of life. Jesus promises life. And it might be that some of us this morning need to be resurrected in an area of our life. It might be our relationship with God itself, just that, I need to come and I need to recommit. I need greater passion for the church. I need greater passion for spending time with Jesus. I need a greater passion in my prayer life, or whatever it is. Or whatever it is that you feel that God has spoken to you about this morning and you want prayer, come forward for prayer. Because we believe that God is here. We believe that Jesus is drawing you this morning. And he would say, it's me. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me.